For our group's wicked problem, we decided to ask the question, how can we make failure as powerful a learning tool as success? In order to gather data so that we could try to find a solution, we sent out a survey to various educators to get their opinions on failure in the classroom. First, we're going to analyze the data as a group. We got 100 responses. When we asked the question, how comfortable are your students with taking risks in your classroom? As you can see, many people answered that they were pretty comfortable with it. The same is true for the question, how comfortable are your students with failing around you? Now, when the question changed to how comfortable are your students with failing around their peers, you can see that this changed to mostly uncomfortable. So there's some peer pressure there. We then asked, how supportive is your administration of allowing your students to take risks and potentially fail? And as you can see, there were some supportive and some very supportive, but most people answered kind of neutral to that. So maybe there's a little bit of reluctance there on the administration part. The next question was, it wasn't a question, it asked them to agree or disagree with a statement, and this statement was, my fear of failure prevents me from trying new things in my teaching practice. As you can see, most people disagreed here, which I thought was pretty cool to see. The next one was, I am embarrassed of failing in front of my colleagues. The answers were kind of across the board here, which doesn't surprise me because colleagues are peers, and as we saw with students, they were more likely to disagree with the peer statement, so it kind of correlates here that as teachers we are also afraid to fail in front of our peers. The next question was, I am embarrassed of failing in front of my administration. And for this one, as you can see, a lot of people agreed or completely agreed with this statement. So maybe again, a little bit of reluctance on the administration's part for viewing failure as a good thing. A lot of teachers answered that they do have a growth mindset where they believe that they can kind of grow and learn from failure. And then many of them said that they also teach growth mindset in their classroom. Now we wanted to get a little bit more specific, so we broke it down into the type of school, either rural, suburban, or urban, so we could see if there were any differentiations here. So we go back to that first question, how comfortable are your students with taking risks in your classroom? I thought it was surprising here that the suburban one kind of had the most support for this question. Students were most comfortable in a suburban setting. So I thought that was interesting to see. The next question was, how comfortable are your students with failing around you? In a rural setting, pretty much across the board actually, teachers feel that their students are comfortable failing in front of them. Now again, with the peers, we see that trend where although they're comfortable failing in front of their teacher, they aren't as comfortable failing around their peers, which is, you know, like I said, pretty common across the board for all three. The next one, how supportive is your administration of allowing your students to take risks and fail? In rural districts, it looks like there was high support across the board. Suburban, there was some support, and then urban, it was kind of, there was some support, but it had more unsupportive answers, I suppose. So, again, kind of the same trend as altogether. My fear of failure prevents me from trying new things in my teaching practice. A lot of teachers, actually pretty much across the board, teachers still disagreed with this one, even across the different types of school districts. The next question was, I am embarrassed of failing in front of my colleagues. And a lot of the teachers in the rural setting disagreed with that. Suburban was kind of middle of the road, and then urban, which I thought was interesting. A lot of teachers agreed with that in the urban district. I am embarrassed of failing in front of my administration. Again, kind of across the board that most people here are afraid of failing in front of their admin. Once again, I have a growth mindset. It looks like urban teachers had the strongest feelings on that, but everybody pretty much agreed. I teach growth mindset in my classroom. Again, pretty similar results, even broken out into the 3 different types. And that was the end of our data set. So please move on to the next part of our presentation to see some of the solutions we came up with based off the data that we got from all these different teachers.